Welcome to RealTalk, FEMC Pearland's podcast where we have conversations about faith, doubt, and everything in between with real people. I'm your host, Reverend Thea Curry-Fusen, and I'm joined today by two members of First United Methodist Church Pearland to talk about their journey and making sure that moms matter. I want to just jump right in and have you ladies introduce yourselves, talk about how long you've been a mom and maybe a mom joy, something you're celebrating right now.
My name is Megan Jones, and I have been a mom for 12 years. And I think the one thing I'm celebrating is just the fun relationship I get to have with my oldest right now. It's a lot of different journeys we're going on at the moment, but it's just fun to see her growing and become a little lady, and it's just really fun to see that.
My name is Amanda Tompkins, and I've been a mom for 4 years. I have a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old. They're both boys. They're a year apart. I've been the mom co-coordinator for 2 years, and when I'm not doing mom stuff, I'm a full-time pediatric physical therapist.
So I invited you both today to talk a little bit about MomCo, previously called MOPS, if we have any listeners who are a little bit more familiar with that name. And so I wanted to just jump right in and talk to me a little bit of how MOPS or MomCo got started at FEMC Pearland. What was the why? What was the vision? What was that like?
Okay, so I did join MOPS, but it was already, it was started by two other moms that were at our church. So they started it, I think, because they went to a Friendswood MOPS, and there was not any kind of MOPS, MomCo in Pearland, so they decided to talk to our church and get them to let us use our worship area to do that. But yeah, so they started probably, I don't know. I think MOPS has been 8.
You did it for
9.
7 years.
I was the coordinator for 7 years.
And then I've done 2, so that's 9. And then how long was it before?
It was like 2 years. So Amanda and Taryn did it for 2 years, and then I took over after the 2 years. But I think the big reason why them doing is because they did it in Friendswood, and they wanted to have one in Pearland because there was no MOPS in Pearland. So
tell me a little bit more. What is MOPS? What is MomCo?
MomCo, it's more of just like a place to gather with other moms in different seasons and just, get together and chat. We usually do like a meeting. Our meeting consists of like a speaker, craft. There's always childcare, and just like hang out.
There's food, coffee,
lots of food, lots of coffee.
The MomCo is actually like it's an international. It's not just Pearland. It's not just Texas. It spans 101 different countries all over the world and reaches over 1 million moms. So it's a Christian organization that has reached all over the world. So it's something that a lot of people know about.
Yeah. So my favorite thing about MomCo, it is just this creation of a space, a place for moms to come together. I remember when we started one out in Manville, our big focus was a warm breakfast you can sit down for. So many moms, especially of younger children, are eating the leftovers, a quick bite in between managing, especially when you have multiples. And so to create about 2 hours, sometimes 2.5, right? A really nice block of time where moms can count on to come, that their children are taken care of well by certified, trained nursery staff in a safe space that's created for children, but then that moms could just have that moment to sit. Nobody's, grabbing them, needing something, prodding them, asking for anything. They get to have that warm meal. They get to have a nice cup of coffee. They hopefully get to drink all the way through before it gets cold. But then also connecting with other moms, a space where they are seen and heard and can have an adult conversation in the middle of the day. Or just those other people who are coming alongside who have been there or are there. That has been something that I think is really, really powerful. And my imagination tells me that's why moms sign up. That's what they're looking for. It's nice that it's at a church. It's nice that it's Christian organized. It's nice that there's childcare, but it feels like it's that that
community.
safe space.
Yeah. The community.
Where
for
have you
sure.
seen that in reality in Momco in the past, 10 years that FUMC has been serving?
Well, for me, I have made a lot of really good close-knit girlfriends during the time. Like I have a few that we've been in it since the beginning. So, and we're still all very connected. All of our kids have kind of grown up together, things like that. So I just really enjoy that love and support that I get from everybody and like just the friendships that I made during that time. Yeah.
And we have that wide variety. Like Megan's been a mom for 12 years and I'm a newer mom, and we have a mom that's expecting right now. So we start from we start supporting you from day one. I started attending. Megan was like, come on, girl. Like I started attending when I was on maternity leave. Yeah. So it was the one time I put real clothes on and got out of the house and was like, okay, I'm going to talk and figure out like what this mom thing is like. Like, what am I doing? Am I doing everything right? Am I doing everything wrong? Have a little bit of fun. Like getting a $5 Dollar Tree gift card from Megan from winning a game was like the highlight of your week whenever you're at home with a baby. And it's exciting and fun. And you learn from other moms, like Megan was saying. I've really found a joy in connecting moms. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a pediatric physical therapist in Pearland. And so I go into people's homes and I get to be a part of their families and serve their families. And I see those moms that are isolated. I see those moms that don't have any community. And so I've loved being able to bridge that gap and invite them. And one of the biggest rewards I got recently, a mom of a mom was telling me how much she came to tears and was like, I am so thankful you extended that invitation to my daughter. It's made the world a difference. And I'm like, wow, that was amazing. And just getting out and doing different things. And hey, my kid is starting to show neurodiverse characteristics. What about your kids? Oh yeah, mine too. You're not the only one. And teaching a mom that these non-normal things are normal. And it's okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Something I'm really wowed by, actually just right now when you both were sharing, I got a little teary-eyed, is you are two of the most perfect people for this role. You are both such natural connectors and inviters. And when you invite someone in, I know personally I felt that way, not even as a mom, but even just to come in and say, hey, will you pray? Hey, will you be a part of this? Will you come and say hello? Like, it feels so welcoming and encouraging. And I've seen that in the moms that you have just, again, not even coordinated, just made space for. Like, I don't want to minimize what you do because I do think it's very, very powerful, but I also don't think it's like rocket science. You have just created a space. You've been welcoming and warm and inclusive, and you've extended those invites, and not just to moms who are becoming moms, but you've done such a great job with moms of teenagers, moms of adult children, grandmas, right? That you've included them and said, you have something to share. You can come and be a part of this too. This is a powerful place where women are sharing their strength, their stories, their hope, their connection. And that way that you continually make those invites and those outreach. And then not only, hey, you should come, but when they show up, you truly make a space for them. I have seen it so many times just in the couple of years I've gotten to walk alongside both of you and see what you're doing and the real impact that it makes. I know for so many of those moms, that is their safe space. That is the place they are welcomed and accepted and loved with the light of Christ that not every church can offer. Even us, some days, we fail at that, right? And yet you've created this space that really says, you belong here. And it's really powerful. I don't know why it's getting me so emotional, but it's really powerful to see you continue to make a commitment to this. And I know it is work, right? I know there's also scheduling and there's childcare and there's, these special events that you do. Talk a little bit beyond what happens beyond the meetings. I think that's another powerful piece. So talk a little bit about what happens beyond the regularly scheduled meetings at the church location.
We do play dates. So especially our morning group, they're mostly stay-at-home moms. I mean, I go to that group and I'm a working mom, but I take that time off. Our kids love to play together afterwards. And sometimes they're just running around crazy and we just go to McDonald's afterwards. and we can sit further and continue conversation while our kids eat and go play, and they just love playing with each other. So we do play dates. Last summer we did every Monday we met at someone else's different house, and that was like something we did differently that the morning moms really loved because their kids are home now all summer and they were already stay-at-home moms, and they're like, what am I gonna do? So we create mom's night outs as well. So we get like this past Friday night, we just went to a restaurant and there was 15 moms, and that was like a really great turnout. And we just sat there and chit chatted about life. And I told the group when I got home, I said, like, I showed up there burnt out. I just dealt with like a tantrum from my 4-year-old, and I was just like, my soul was drained, and it filled me up sitting there talking to girls. And yes, I've been there. This is what we do. This helps. And just bouncing ideas off of each other. And I left feeling restored. And it was just showing up somewhere. Nothing we had to plan. And it didn't take a lot of, my leadership team is amazing and helps with a lot of that.
We do a lot of like in-house things too.
Bunko.
Like Bunko and just little girls' night. We've had Galentine's things.
We try to do like a social event every month and then a
at least
play
once
date.
month. Yeah, for sure. And I know like the older moms with the older kids, we don't really do a lot of the play dates. We probably more participate in the other activities as as needed.
We're a good balance between the two of us.
Well, and that's something I've also seen. It's like, hey, these are the offerings. There's no pressure. We're not trying to make you feel guilty because you're not coming to the next thing, right? But here's an opportunity. And I know that you, Amanda, extended the invitation to our women's retreat this year and to all of your MomCo participants. And there was a mom who said, I haven't had a full night's sleep since my baby was born. Tell a little bit more about that story and the power of that.
Yeah, we've Megan and I have always talked about like doing a retreat. How do we get everybody on board? Because it's really hard for a lot of moms to leave their kids for the weekend. Megan and I leave our kids all the time. But some people don't have that luxury. We both, like, I have a lot of support with family. And a year ago, one of our moms, I think she has a 7-year-old, she said she's never spent the night away from her parent.
I can't remember. Go ahead.
Anyways. She had never spent, and I was like, we're going to make this retreat happen. And I want to team up with Women's Retreat. Let's get this on board and make this as successful as possible. And I think we had about 10 or 11 MomCo moms attend out of like the almost 50 that went.
Which is, I think is a good number.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the moms woke up Saturday morning, and she has a 4-year-old as well. And she said, oh my gosh, I've never slept in until 7 o'clock in the last 4 years. And I was like, this is why I put all the effort into it. And it was so rewarding just to like give them that theme, and that we did the theme as rest, and we gave them that that space to, you can go to bed, you can sleep in. Breakfast was not at 7 a.m. Breakfast was at 8:30. You could rest, hang out with the girls, and we really were focused on connection during that event. And there were moms of all ages there, and it was really rewarding to see that.
Yeah, I loved it.
What I'm also hearing, I hope our listeners take note, moms are not asking for a lot.
No.
They're asking for a sit-down warm meal, to finish her cup of coffee before it gets cold, and to sleep in till 7 a.m. every once in a while. So I hope that our dads and our aunts and uncles and grandparents hear this and say, wow, that's all the moms in my life need right now. That's really it. How can I bring by a warm meal and take care of the kids so mom can eat it? How might I, allow mom that full cup of coffee, or even just like, again, to sleep until 7? It's
Mother's Day is coming up, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
We are giving you an easy pass here. Yeah. I also wanted to share a couple of stories that I've seen come out of MomCo and this space that you ladies have created and been devoted to, really. And I would say is your ministry. The first was about 2.5 years ago when I knew I was coming back to Pearland. Amanda, you were working in Lake Jackson. That's where I was working at the time. So we had lunch and just said, hey, I'm coming back to Pearland. I know you're real involved with worship and connecting, but where's your heart? I don't know if you remember this, but at that lunch, you told me, I'm happy to, help with connections. I'm happy to host. I'm happy to do those things. And I don't want to stop, but my heart is for women's ministry. I want to continue to pour in to women. And it's been so neat. And I think that's about the time that Megan asked you to come learn how to take over and kind of lead the next generation. And it's been really amazing to see both you, Megan, willing to like release the reins,
Girl,
right?
it was time to release those reins. It was so time.
And I bring that up because that's really hard.
It was
I know,
really,
for
really
us
hard
to
for
do.
me. Yeah, it was very hard, but it was very much needed.
Yeah.
So.
And then for you, Amanda, to step into that. And if I can be a little more candid, I remember a couple times that first year, Amanda saying, okay, well, I know I can learn, right? I'm here to learn. And so I'm gonna learn Megan's ways, but one day it can be different, right? And I would tell you, yes, you know, that's one of the things Megan has to accept. She's
I'm
letting
okay with
go.
Yeah. She
And
trained me for a year, and then the next year we're like, okay, wait, I got to
Yeah.
figure it out this way, and then make improvements from there, for sure.
Right. Lots of
Yeah.
times I just say, Amanda, you're the one in charge, sweetheart. Like it's up
Yeah,
to
but
you.
you've been super supportive. She's been my little cheerleader. I'm like, hey, this happened. She's like, honey, it's totally fine. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And that is really what I'm a words of affirmation person. So that really helps me stay motivated and on time and really asking other leaders more to step up. And
Yes.
that's hard. Megan and I are both a little
Yes.
controlling when it comes
Very
to
much
things.
so. Don't deny it. because it's
And
true.
hey, you are in charge of social events. Can you be in charge of making sure the kids are taken care of if they have a snack, an activity? That has helped so much that we've start to learn to rely on other people. And then it also blesses the other moms as we give them blessings by being able to be a leader in this group too.
a couple other things is I know every year and multiple times I try to step into Momco and just, you know, welcome the moms to our church. And I say something like, you know, hey, I count you in my flock. If you have a church and a pastor, great. And I'm so glad to hear that. But if you don't and you need one, or if you do and you still need one, you know, you're welcome to come to me. I'm praying for you. I'm coming alongside you. And I take that seriously. Again, for some of these women, they're well invested, well connected, and they are surrounded by a faith community. And for some, they've had a horrible experience at church. They have every reason not to trust a church. But I want to try and be different. And what's been so powerful from that is when the moms take us up on that, right? When they come and say, you know, well, I know for one last year, a mom passed away, and her family reached out to me and said, will you help us as we walk through this process and grieve and plan a memorial and those kinds of things? Or, you know, a mom recently, you know, hey, I want to talk more about baptism. What does that mean? Can we have that conversation? And my favorite thing about that is that's not really the goal of Momco, right? FUMC Pearland doesn't host Momco so that we can baptize those moms or we can be the pastor at their funerals. And I think that's why we see that fruit, right? Our goal is truly to be a safe space, right? To be, to welcome, to offer great childcare to their children, right? I've actually been inviting some of our church members to come alongside, provide a meal, come in with prayer cards, like to really show up. And again, not so that these women will now call FUMC Pearland their church home, but actually in doing that, a lot of them do, right? It is their home because it's the place that they feel the most comfortable, the most safe, the most welcome. And I was also going to point out, you know, last year for Mother's Day, there were, I think, two or three Momco moms who have sometimes, you know, visited our church, participated in things, not current partners in any type of way, stood on the stage and told the impact that Momco makes on a Sunday morning. I can't get longtime Christians to stand up there and give me a testimony. Megan, would you do it?
Absolutely not. No.
And so there's, again, the power and the impact that our church, I hope, is able to see that, again, by offering this space and doing more than saying, sure, we'll open the door, but to really show up and care for these women and to take their journey seriously, it is bearing fruit better than we could have ever planned. What are some ways you've seen the church come alongside and some of the outcomes? I mean, what's the benefit? Why aren't you just renting space at somewhere else?
We are really lucky to have a supportive church. There's a
100%.
lot of Momco meetups that the moms have to volunteer and rotate for taking care of the kids.
Which I think is wild.
And our church is very supportive in letting us
Yes.
use their certified child care workers. Our nursery coordinator is safety is a big priority. She wants to have the best experience for our moms as possible. But every year, the last couple of years, I've sent out a survey at the end of the year. And one of the questions is, do you feel supported by FUMC Pearland? And like you said, most of the moms in the group are not partners or members of our church. And they all say yes. And they love being invited to all the little things. One of the moms recently told me, they're like, yeah, we have a church home, but our church is so big. We can't hold an Easter egg hunt for 1,000 kids. They get included in our Easter egg hunt. They get included on our parents' night out. One of our night moms, this was the first date she had with her husband in 3 years. And she felt comfortable dropping her kids off, and her husband went on a date. And that is like just an amazing way to minister to the mom group. And also I feel like like Thea mentioned earlier, we have the parents or the ladies that have kind of been our fairy little godmothers. I think of them as they've come at the beginning of the semester and made us a meal, and we've got little Valentine's bags.
We all love Miss
And moms are just like, oh, that was so sweet. And they get cards in the mail. Some of the moms will be like, oh, I just got a random card saying you're doing a great job. And that is just a way to love on people. And that's what being a part of a church is about, just loving on them.
Exactly. I love that. In the beginning, it wasn't like that, but now it is. And I really, really appreciate Thea because I feel like that she kind of pushed that a lot. And I always was very appreciative of that.
Well, thank you for that. I know for me, I feel like as a church, we can be too hyper-focused, and me too, on how many people are showing up to worship, how many people have joined, how many people are in a small group study, what's our giving like? I mean, these are just the realities of running a church today. And I remember early on saying, especially FEMC Pearland, we are so well connected in our community. Why are we not celebrating that? Why are we not pouring into those opportunities? Again, not to increase those other things that we tend to measure, but to say these things matter. Like kind of the quote I always use, I say, I want to be more than just a landlord. I want to be more than just someone who opens the door. I want to really come alongside. These places and these groups are trusting us. And honestly, being led by you, you are committed parts of what God is doing at FEMC Pearland and beyond. And so really I want to come alongside and support that and encourage that and fan that flame. Also, as we live into what we call a post-Christendom world, so a world where less and less people are choosing church in the ways that maybe our parents or even we still choose today, we have got to look at fresh expressions, a new way to think about that, and a new way for people to gather. And as I started to kind of hear that kind of verbiage and look at that reality, I started to look and say, we already have this. Momco is a fresh expression. It's a place where women are gathering. They're sharing the good news. They're sharing in faith community. They're praying together. They're doing service projects. I mean, this is really a powerful place. Back to that Mother's Day celebration where I showed those pictures of Momco, it was some of the most fun that any of our church pictures would show.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the joy we could see. And even as we strive into living into a new reality, we're going to thrive in 25. One of the new markers of success for a church is joy. And I see that. I see that with these women. I hear it in the room when I come in just to say hi. You ladies are doing the work, right? You are taking the gospel far beyond the sanctuary and creating safe spaces. And I think that's exactly what we are called to do. What would be your encouragement for other churches, other listeners, maybe even for FUMC Pearland? How could we be more supportive? But how do we continue this work? How do we replicate what you ladies have started and continue to lead?
I just think it's important for churches to be inclusive. We have single moms.
Yes.
We have divorced moms. We have same-sex moms. Yes. It doesn't matter. Jesus calls us to love everybody, and they need a support as a mom too. And you don't have to have a qualification. When we talk about all those things that relate to us, I think we even have a Buddhist. But we still connect as we don't change anything. We still pray. And it's just like a low stakes thing. You can show up and offer that care. One mom told me once that I wanted to invite her to church to like a Christmas service past a meeting. And she's like, well, I need to get myself right before I come. And I was like, that's not the way it is. You know, some people might see Amanda and she's like, oh, she's at church for the 4th time this week. And I'm like, it's not because I think I'm perfect. It's because we're broken. I'm broken and I need Jesus. And so I think that's important to share that with other moms that they're not expected to have everything right when they walk in the door. They don't have to have everything right to sit at church and have communion that week. And we're just a diverse group of people. And I think the church just needs to be accepted and it may be a little annoying to set up childcare. That's always the hardest thing when a mom group's starting up. But having that support and just patience but then it becomes fruitful, like you're saying, in the end.
For sure. Well, and I remember when we started the Mom Co out in Manville, I called a group of grandmas and said, hey, we have this new mom group starting and we don't have enough nursery workers available. Would you come and hold these babies? And they were actually thrilled. And actually, as I think about it, probably
most of them
grandmas from FEMC Pearland, at the time,
yeah.
and said, hey, would you help us in the first couple of months until we could build up that team? And they were amazing. And what again, another way that maybe, your church does have a smaller nursery team. This is a once a month, maybe twice a month to say, hey, would you come and help? And so often grandmas are looking for that. And, and grandpas can do it too. It's not just, moms giving them purpose and reason and ways to support. And so I think that's really another place where the church can come alongside and help, even if they don't have the staffing to be able to serve. And I think that's one place that maybe we could help and grow, right? If y'all had more, if your current group had more childcare availability, you have demand from moms who want to kind of get in.
Yes. Yeah, we had to close this. We had to close this year for the first time in a long time in the morning.
Yes, I love that. I think that's amazing.
But it goes again to like we want to make sure we have everything safe and enough.
The biggest thing is I feel like our biggest struggle is always childcare, but I feel like that's any place really, just because.
Yeah,
it's just a.
And if you take care of their kids, they're willing to come back. Another one of my moms, she volunteers every year at VBS and gifts camp or whatever, and she's like, and I bring my kids. If you guys take care of my kids, I'll do anything. And that's the way to a mom. If you create that safe space for their kids, and even if it isn't a mom co meeting, you think about your summer camps and things like that. How can you reach out? Our kids love the family light night. Like we have 1 to 2 trailers of just mom co. Like this year we got to like make a float or something would be great. Of all the moms and their families and going to look at Christmas lights, singing Christmas carols together, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. So you mentioned, MomCo, it's a national organization, Christian, centered. What is it that you think Jesus offers moms? What is it that, why MomCo doesn't have to be Christ-centered. Why do you think that Jesus is at the middle of this whole thing?
I think Jesus offers us forgiveness. It helps us forgive ourselves as moms when we feel like I yelled at my kid earlier today. Jesus, help me.
Good answer, Amanda. That was.
He offers us forgiveness and love. And I think the biggest thing is company. And that just like Thea's really taught me from the beginning of when becoming a mom that Jesus is with you. Yes. He's not, and God isn't causing these bad things to happen. God isn't. They make your kids sick. Jesus is there to support you and offer that companionship as you go through every little stage.
Yeah. I love that. That's a good answer.
Thanks.
So if you mentioned Jesus and the forgiveness, it made me think about reconciliation. And when I preach weddings, I always talk about reconciliation, right? That we are reconciled to Christ. And to be married is to be reconciled repeatedly because that spouse is going to mess up. And you have got to not only forgive, but reconcile, right? Move forward. But then you also have to live reconciled, right? You have to believe you've been forgiven. so that you can move forward in the relationship as well. And I guess as you said that, it feels like it's probably the same with parenthood, right? You've got to forgive your child for their, the things they don't know and the things they do, right? And their mistakes and their choices. And then you've got to live reconciled with that child despite his or her choices. But then also as a mom, like you said, you've got to trust you've been forgiven and to live reconciled too, to not carry that shame and that guilt and to somehow think I'm a failure because, Friday at 4, the little one had a meltdown and that doesn't make me a horrible person. That makes me real. That makes my child real. The world is hard and scary and I'm tired too. And if it was socially acceptable for me to throw a fit, I would do it in the middle of the Target aisle as well. And actually we see adults throw those temper tantrums, right? And maybe we need to learn to be a little more, forgiving of even them too, right? But that reconciliation, right? To believe I've been not only forgiven, but redeemed. And I don't have to live with this sin, this mistake, this reality of my humanity even. Not even that it's a bad thing. It's just uncomfortable or incomplete yet, right? That we get to both live that way, but then we have to also show it to other people. And again, I think that kind of just brings back to what I see out of MomCo and why it matters so much is that you're telling moms that at a very seemingly vulnerable time, right? I know postpartum depression is a thing and it's becoming more and more common as more and more moms especially feel isolated in those feelings, that fatigue, that worry and wonder or over anxiety even. And just to bring them together and say, you're okay. You're not alone. You're not in this by yourself. And not only is God with you, but we're going to show you the love of God by coming alongside too. I think that's really, really powerful. And I just want to say again, I think you women are doing powerful things with what you're willing to lead. What would be one piece of hope you offer to moms today who need support?
Just to find that core group for yourself and,
I read this question and I was like, well, this year is the theme is Wild Hope this year.
Oh, that's right.
Wild Hope. And I love that Thea just talked about mental health because I think that's the biggest thing that I try to tell moms. Like, I'm a very happy person. You wouldn't know that
for sure.
what I'm struggling with. You wouldn't know that I take antidepressant medication, but like becoming a mom, like changes you.
Yes.
You having so many moms have anxiety. They have the postpartum depression and you hear that term, but you also it doesn't always look the same for everyone. I feel like on the commercials for medication, you see like a mom who can't get out of bed. No, you can still live with postpartum depression and be taking care of your kid, but then there's some dark times and that's not normal. And how do you advocate for that? And how do you support your moms and say, I just try to be so transparent. And those are my favorite meetings is when people have to talk about, we've talked about grief and we've talked about struggles and people don't like it. They look at me and they're like, no, Amanda, I'm not going to say anything today. But then maybe you open that door and eventually maybe they will. And I'm an oversharer and I think I'm trying to use that as my advantage to, okay, I'm going to be open about this. And then if somebody else needs it, they have that as well.
About you,
yeah. We're both overshares.
We are.
But my hope is just for moms to know they're not alone and they just need to take that step and say yes and show up.
Yes.
The first MomCo meeting, like MomCo as a whole always says your first meeting is free.
Yep.
And it's not like you have to register, sign up, just show up. That's all you have to do. And even moms' nights out, sometimes there's only a couple moms that show up. And Megan's always said, it's those are the moms that need it the most. Yep. It doesn't matter how many people show up. That does not determine the success of an event. It's you offered a safe space to have that mom time.
Yeah, I think my hope would be again to find community, right? That to trust you don't have to do this alone. You're not designed to do it alone.
100%.
And there are people out there who want to journey with you, who have the space who are willing to make room for you and your life, in their life, and all that you bring. I think that's such a powerful thing that so easily, especially when we're suffering, when we're lost, when we're confused, we tend to just gravitate to isolation, right? To inward, to find our phone and to think maybe some sort of answer is in there. Well, on your phone, Google Mom Co near me.
Yes.
And find a place that you can connect and find that. And that's going to bring light. I mean, I again think that's Jesus's whole deal, right? I'm going to come be with you in the flesh, and then I'm going to teach you how to be with others. He didn't call and have one-on-one private relationships that never connected. He forced all these randoms to get together and learn how to love each other, learn how to be in community. And then that's what a church is supposed to be, right? It's not about steeples and buildings and 501c3 status. It's about community, right? And again, I really applaud what you women are doing for the moms in our community. And I think it's a powerful testament of our church and what we believe and how we live it out. So thank you again for what you're doing.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in. I hope this conversation was meaningful to you, and that if you know someone who needs to hear this kind of hope, strength, and opportunity, that you will share this episode. Send it to a mom who needs to be reminded that she matters and might just be looking for community. I'd also invite you to subscribe, like, follow, all of that fun stuff, because it actually matters. And it helps us increase our reach of these types of conversations to real people in need. I also want to plug our upcoming live podcast event. Will be held on Thursday, April 3rd, 6:30 p.m. at Steamboat Bob's on Highway 35 here in Pearland. Out on the patio, we're going to take over, and we're going to take your big questions. We want to have a real and honest conversation about what questions we're allowed to ask and what might those answers be. And so I'd love to hear from you. Send your questions, your comments, your feedback, your idea for things we should talk about on that live event to theac@fumcpearland.org. And I hope you plan to join us then. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Real Talk Podcast is produced by First United Methodist Church Pearland in collaboration with Pearland Podcast Studios, recorded here in Pearland, Texas. We invite you to check out our website at fumcpearland.org to check out additional events and opportunities for you to engage in real talk about faith and relationships.